3 weeks ago, I returned the dance costume to the shop where I bought it. The owner did not ask why. She looked at me, then at the box in my hands, and stepped aside as if she had been expecting me. Before I left, she said the same thing she had said when I bought it. The costume chooses its owner, not the other way around. I thought returning it would end everything. It did not. Right now, I am staring at the shop's resale page on my laptop. The costume sold 4 days after I brought it back. It went to a buyer in another province for less than I originally paid. The final listing photo shows it hanging in front of a large mirror. The room is empty, but in the mirror, the shadow of a woman is lifting both arms into the opening position of a dance. And the costume itself is still hanging perfectly still. I bought it 2 months ago at a second-hand market near my university. My professor had chosen me to perform at the cultural festival, and I could not afford the prices at the costume rental shops downtown. The stall was hidden at the back of the market, between a repair shop and a table covered in old amulets. It sold jewelry, folded clothes, tarnished hair ornaments, and objects that looked as if they had been taken from houses no one lived in anymore. The woman running it was around 60. She watched me look through everything without trying to make a sale. Then I found the costume. It was dark red with old gold embroidery. The cloth felt heavy, but the color had not faded. There were tiny repairs along the inside seams, all made by hand. It looked decades old and far too valuable for the price on the tag. I asked why it was so cheap. The owner gave me a small smile. The costume chooses its owner, not the other way around. I assumed it was something she told customers to make old clothes sound mysterious. I paid and carried it back to my dorm. That first night, I hung it on the back of my door. The next morning, every muscle in my body hurt. My calves cramped when I stood up. My shoulders felt as if I had held my arms above my head for hours. I blamed the thin mattress. On the second night, I dreamed I was dancing in a hall I had never seen before. The floor was polished teak. Rows of candles burned along the walls. People sat around the edges of the room, but every face disappeared whenever I tried to focus on it. My hands moved through a sequence I had never learned. The gestures were precise, intricate, and impossibly slow. Someone stood behind me, correcting every movement. I never saw her face. I only felt 2 ice-cold hands closing around my wrists. I woke at 3 in the morning. Both of my hands were raised above my chest, holding the final pose from the dream. The costume was no longer hanging on the back of the door. It was hanging from the handle of my wardrobe, directly across from my bed. I told myself my roommate must have moved it. She swore she had not touched it. Over the next week, I started moving without realizing it. My fingers would bend into dance positions while I was reading. My wrists would turn slowly whenever I passed a mirror. My roommate said some nights she woke and found me standing in front of our mirror, dancing in complete silence. My eyes would be open, but I never answered when she called my name. I remembered none of it. She finally recorded me on her phone. In the video, I am standing with my back to the mirror. My hands move through the same sequence from my dreams. At first, my reflection follows me normally. Then it starts falling behind. Half a beat, then a full beat. Near the end of the recording, I stop moving. My reflection completes one more gesture by itself. Then it raises one finger to its lips. My roommate moved out the next morning. I should have returned the costume then. Instead, I convinced myself stress was making everything worse. The cultural festival was only 4 days away, and without the costume, I could not perform. On the night of the festival, I put it on backstage. The moment the fabric settled over my shoulders, the pain in my body disappeared. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. That frightened me more than the dreams. I went on stage and began the routine I had rehearsed with my professor. The first half went exactly as planned. Then the music reached a quiet section, and my hands stopped obeying me. My fingers folded into the opening pose from the dream. My feet changed direction. My body continued into the sequence I had practiced every night without knowing it. I could see the audience watching. I could hear them applauding whenever I completed a difficult turn. But underneath the music, I heard another rhythm. Bare feet striking a wooden floor behind me, always half a beat late. I tried to stop. My body kept dancing. The applause grew louder. Only my professor looked afraid. When the music ended, both of my hands locked into the final pose. For several seconds, I could not lower them. Backstage, my professor grabbed my wrists. "Where did you learn that last sequence?" I told her I had not learned it. I had only seen it in dreams. She released me immediately. "That sequence has not been taught in decades," she said. "My teacher showed it to me once, but she would never let us perform it." I asked why. My professor looked toward the costume. "Because the last dancer who performed it did not stop when the music ended." That night, I folded the costume into a box and called my mother. I asked whether she had ever heard of a dancer who died during a performance. She was quiet for a long time. Then she told me an old story that used to circulate among dance troupes when she was young. There had been a dancer known as the most gifted in her company. She fell in love with a man her family rejected. According to the story, the head instructor punished her by ordering her to dance through the night, believing exhaustion would force her to forget him. She danced until dawn. When the musicians stopped, she did not. She continued in silence until her body collapsed in the middle of the floor. Both hands were still holding the final pose. No one knew what happened to the costume she had been wearing. I did not sleep that night. Just before 3, something scraped against the inside of the box. Once, then again, in the rhythm of fingernails tapping against a wooden floor. The next morning, I carried the box back to the market. The owner took it from me without opening it. "You knew," I said. She looked tired rather than guilty. "I knew it had chosen before," she replied. I did not know whether it had chosen again. Then she repeated the line about the costume choosing its owner. I left and never went back. For 3 weeks, I had no dreams. My hands stopped moving on their own. I thought the connection had finally been broken. Then I found the resale listing. Last night, I dreamed of the room in the final photograph. A girl I did not recognize stood before the large mirror, wearing the costume and practicing the opening positions. I tried to warn her, but I had no mouth. I looked down. I had no body either. I was only a reflection in the mirror. The girl made a mistake. Her left hand turned too far. Without meaning to, I reached out and corrected it. She smiled at me. Then she continued dancing. I woke at 3 in the morning with both hands ice cold and raised in the final pose. There was a new notification on my laptop. The buyer had left a review for the shop. It contained only one sentence. "The costume fits as if it already knows me."